Conference. I'm Christy McDonald. Thanks so much for joining us. And you were just listening to a panel discussion called Filling the Workforce Skills Gap, and really job training and looking at skilled trades is one of the big topics of conversation here on Mackinac Island, and also taking a look at what the coordinated effort is to make sure that we are getting a skilled workforce. And joining me now is Mike Rafferty. He's the director of the Metro Detroit Partnership. Mike, it's good to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Too.
And William Jones, he's the CEO of Focus Hope. William, thanks so much for joining us. So I'd love to have this long, I guess, larger conversation of how do we fill these jobs and how do we get a skilled workforce here in the state of Michigan, and I guess what that coordinated effort is. And Mike, let me start with you and your role when we talk about this.
Well, I'd like to start off in the stratosphere if I could. So the Michigan Nonprofit Association, where I work, represents nonprofits writ large. It's everything from the large multi-million-dollar universities all the way down to very small grassroots organizations, many of whom do focus on workforce development, workforce training, and supporting the economy. One of the things that we focus on is supporting those organizations to do better work. And things that are typically overlooked when it comes to the sector as a whole is that we actually employ quite a bit of talent. In the state alone, 1 in 10 jobs are nonprofit. That is somewhere around 440,000 jobs employed in the state of Michigan. So that's just within the sector itself, the job existence and the job growth. But we're also acting as multipliers. Some of those jobs are actually creating other jobs by way of teaching and by way of training and by way of supporting those job seekers looking for meaningful employment. So
the fact that we're concentrating so much on this up at Mackinac right now and the conversations is very timely then.
Right, it is. One of the things that we're doing while we're here is making sure that we connect with businesses and with policymakers, sort of as a 3-tier public-private partnership to do things like what we're talking about here, making sure that the agendas of organizations to improve workforce development, decrease unemployment, to make sure that that can happen in a coordinated way.
And William, Focus Hope has been working for years, helping people get trained for jobs. And let me ask you, first of all, what makes a good job in what you're doing and trying to help people train?
Well, we've been doing this for some 33 years now, starting back in the early 80s with Father Cunningham and Eleanor kicking off the Machinist Training Institute. What makes a good job is access to good middle-class wages, the opportunity to earn a wage, to make a living that supports you and your family, supports your broader aspirations. What also makes a good job is the opportunity for a career and a stepping stone to more enhanced jobs as one continues throughout that process of working, earning, educating, training, all those factors that are very, very important.
Focus Hope has been doing this for so long. What are some of the hurdles that people run into knowing that they want to get a good job and knowing that they want to do some kind of training, but is it hard for people to commit? Is it hard for them to find out about programs?
Well, I think we all could do a better job of making sure that people are educated as to what those opportunities for training are. You know, we've been doing it, but we can't do it all by ourselves, nor can any of the other agencies. So a lot of concerted effort needs to go into comprehensive marketing of what the jobs are, what the training's required, et cetera. We're still working primarily with a lot of folks who come out of high school unprepared, or perhaps they came out of high school a decade ago and unprepared, or have lost a job due to the economic downturn and need to find additional opportunities. So those are the critical things: training, education, awareness.
Mike, Focus Hope isn't the only nonprofit that is working like this to help train a workforce. What is the role that we are really seeing nonprofits take in Southeast Michigan and really in Michigan as a whole?
Well, the issue of workforce development in the state, particularly in the city of Detroit and lots of other urban markets, is kind of like a supply chain. A really strong link in that chain in Detroit is DESC, the Detroit Employment Solutions Corps. And it's a nonprofit that connects directly to city government. And they do everything from soup to nuts. They take applications and prepare with soft skills and things like that. And in addition to Focus Hope and a lot of organizations that sort of follow along in successive chains, Southwest Solutions, when I think about the type of organizations that are needed, it's everything from helping people to get the resumes in working order and making sure that transportation gaps are filled. So, right now in the city of Detroit, there are more than 200 organizations that do those types of things. Far too many to go through in this conversation,
but they're there, and they're working very hard. It all sometimes comes back to funding. Though, William, and you and I talked when the governor talked about his State of the State address and wanting to get more into job training. It does come back to making sure you have funds for programs like that. What have you seen in the last couple of months?
Well, I've seen a lot of concerted effort to find the funding, but I think that as we're looking at it, we're going to have to do a lot more. Okay, both from the private sector as well as from the governmental agencies that do support that kind of funding. We've got tremendous gaps between people willing to work and the skills necessary and the skills required on the job. So we've got to solve those. And we also need to do a much better job of anticipating what the jobs are going to be. We can't just simply have demand-driven training that responds to the needs today. We've got to anticipate what those needs are going to be tomorrow and train people for those jobs as well. For a state like Michigan, which has a long history as a manufacturing state, as an innovator in that regard, we've got to make sure that our talent is well known, well understood, and available, not just for the jobs we have, but for the jobs we're trying to attract, whether they're coming back from overseas or elsewhere or being created today.
All right, William Jones, Mike Rafferty, thanks so much for joining me. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And stay